I recently watched a video by a man named Francis McCaffrey who makes blackthorn walking sticks. And the video's name is The Harsh Reality of Stick Making. Honest account by a full-time Irish shillelagh maker, McCaffrey. And he did a bit of complaining in that video, describing the nature of his profession and particularly the amount of injuries that he sustained over his many long years of being a stick maker. And he basically intimated something that I have heard out and about, which is if you're going to use a knife, you're going to get cut, right? And I'm in two minds about this piece of advice. If you're going to use a knife, sooner or later, you're going to get cut. Anyway, so I left a message on his video. I left a comment on his video. I said the following. An admirably candid video. I have a friend and teacher who is a full-time violin maker. To the best of my knowledge, he cuts himself very rarely. He has often criticized my knife technique, saying, "Watch, I do it like this." My understanding is that for any woodworking cut one intends to make, there is a technique whereby one can avoid cutting oneself. This is not only received knowledge. I usually get at least a couple hours knife work in daily. I do cut myself when I'm playing around or have a serious lapse of judgment. So I am wondering whether there is something about making a shillelagh that obliges the maker to work dangerously, or whether you might not improve your knife technique so as not to be constantly injuring yourself. Another possibility, I suppose, is that your tools are not as sharp as they might be. A blunt tool is a dangerous tool. You strain to make it work and then it slips and opens you up. You probably do know this. Surely this advice may come over as arrogant and condescending to a full-time stick maker, but this popular line of argumentation that if you're going to use a knife, you're definitely going to cut yourself, is a cope for people who cut themselves and think if it can't be someone else's fault, well, that's just life. If you drive a car professionally for decades, you'll probably get into more than one accident. That might be none of your fault, moreover. If you're getting into accidents on the regular, then perhaps you have to accept some responsibility and mediate your professional conduct accordingly. If you learn not to cut yourself, you can teach that to your son, as well as great stick making. And a winky smiley face. Somebody gave me a like. Is that a likable comment? I think that's the comment from a guy who's asking for it. Yeah. Well, I wasn't messing around. I was just whittling on this piece of bone here with this William Collins Mini. And I rather superficially slashed myself. And the last time I cut myself, could just about make out the scar here. I tapped myself with a Brisa Big Muck. It's basically like a parang. I tapped myself. Yeah, superficial, right? Only 4 stitches, which I applied to myself standing over the kitchen sink, using a needle that I forgot to bend. So it's a straight needle. That didn't help. But I didn't cry this time.